Winter may be cold and unforgiving, but it carries with it the quiet promise of spring. After losing Luffy to lymphoma
How are you feeling?
and battling to get Zoro integrated with the girls, we were finally back on track. Or so I thought. Last winter was cold, long, quiet, and heavier than usual. After Luffy passed, suddenly in October, the side of the run he shared with Zoro stood still. Not just empty, but abandoned. I'll be honest, I couldn't bring myself to touch it for a while. Instead, it became a resting place for old projects and leftover parts, DIY tasks gone by, a little scrapyard of memories, gathering dust as they waited for the next adventure to consume them. But spring always comes.
What do you think, Zoro?
Buds push out of the branches. The sunlight glistening on the water stretches out a little longer each day, and the warmth you thought might be lost inside you starts to come back too. With Zoro and the girls now living happily together, the time felt right for me to move on as well. To turn the page, clear out the winter blues, and build something new. Something to help us celebrate the past at the same time as embracing whatever the future brings. So I cleared the space, grabbed whatever scrap wood I could find, and got to work. By the time I was done, it was late in the day, and there had been so much interest in my activity from next door, I didn't think the ferrets would have enough energy left to enjoy it, so I waited until the next morning to open the new attraction. In this space I had allowed to turn grey and lifeless over the winter, sunshine poured back in.
Wear those nails down. Good.
The birds chirped, and 3 little adventurers set out to conquer their new kingdom, with echoes of their lost companion in every panel. There was much sniffing. There was scaling. There were dramatic pauses and triumphant scrambles.
Somewhere to climb.
Scruffles tested the ramp first.
First to attempt the climb.
Wriggles claimed the hanging fleece box. Zoro, ever the dignified swordsman, he did a full inspection before curling up on the fluffy bottom rug like a retired general surveying his new outpost. So what began as a sad and forgotten, unused space is now a springtime sanctuary, built from scraps, fueled by memories, and naturally 40% held together by hope and 10mm staples. With life returning to normal, I set my sights on my next big goal. A goal that would change my ferret's life forever. This is my world. This is my ferret's world. But what if my ferrets could play out in my world? Okay, maybe not that big. But what if I made my whole garden ferret-safe and blew their tiny minds?
What are you doing up there?
My ferrets are always trying to escape their enclosure, so what if I just let them?
Let's go.
Right now they would head to the nearest exit and probably be gone for good. So before I let them have their freedom, I need to plug up some holes in the perimeter security. This project had been a dream since I moved here about 18 months ago. As the garden evolved, adding storage, building the extension, I made sure everything followed ferret containment standards. Nothing they could climb, leap over, or squeeze through. With the help of channel friend Mad Dog's
here.
I spent the morning securing the last escape routes, then harnessed up the ferrets to let them explore the space and reveal any weaknesses in my plan. Harnesses are useful but not infallible, and walking all 3 together, chaos was inevitable. Before long, Zoro wriggled under the steps and scraped his harness off. And while that was happening behind my back, Scruffles somehow Houdini'd her way out of her harness.
See, I'm going to put the girls back in.
So I switched to plan B. 2 ferrets out, 1 in, rotating supervision. Zoro didn't seem too bothered. These days I suspect he's almost completely deaf and has limited vision too. So he was happy to stay inside with a treat.
Good boy.
With my gorgeous boy tucked safely away, Mad Dog and I could focus on watching Wriggles and Scruffles explore the new space. Of course, Wriggles found a way to wriggle under the shed and came out with a face full of cobwebs for her troubles. And Scruffles was the first to come face to face with my feline companions. Or should that be paw to nose? I think a boundary was set here, as Tia quickly backed away and retreated to the high ground. And now I feel confident to let them all out together.
Are you guys ready to come out and have an explore? Let's go! She's moving with speed now, she's got her confidence up.
This will only ever be supervised play, as we do have some big birds of prey in the area, and I've learnt to never underestimate a ferret's ability to escape, or a cat's ability to swipe. And as I watched them frolicking happily in the sunshine, I knew it was time to fulfil another promise I made myself when we moved to Scotland. If you've watched the series from the beginning, you'll know the giant digging sandpit was one of the highlights of our old enclosure. It seems so long ago now. And with the patio cleared and safe, I finally spotted the perfect place to build another one. Ferrets plus sand equals fun. If you want to know how it all came together, check out this link. But for the rest, here is a rapid ascent to noodle chaos. With our own little Riviera now ready to rock, literally, the only thing left to do was add the chaos. Now my felonious furries had a new giant sandpit, and life felt more complete. Until fate dealt another cruel blow, and everything changed again.
There's really no easy way to tell you this, but Zoro is gone.
It happened so suddenly. One day he was here and the next he wasn't. You probably have a lot of questions, so I'm going to try and answer them. This is Zoro's story.
I can't quite believe I'm saying this so soon after losing Luffy, but I'm worried about Zoro.
If you've ever had a pet get sick, you'll know that feeling of simmering dread. What does this mean? Is it serious? Am I overreacting? With the memory of losing Luffy to lymphoma last year still fresh and raw, I wasted no time getting Zoro to the vet for a checkup. She gave him a full examination but couldn't find any obvious signs that something was seriously wrong. Because he was still active and behaving like himself, she advised keeping a close eye on him and to continue the high-calorie supplement I'd started to help with his weight loss. So I brought him home, somewhat reassured, and over the next few weeks, things did improve. He still had the occasional dodgy poop, but he gained weight, perked up, and was every bit his goofy, chaotic self. It was heartwarming to see him properly bonding with my sweet girls. Watching them play together was magical. And when the girls got tired, they'd flatten themselves across him like he was a sun lounger, It was too cute for words. We had a wonderful summer. All 3 ferrets blossomed in the garden alongside the bright flowers, and there were many happy romps in the new sandpit.
You're being very bold.
But as the seasons shifted, so did something inside Zoro. Looking back, he was probably a little less active than normal, but with the cold weather coming in, that didn't feel unusual. He was still keen for food, cuddles, and a bounce whenever I initiated play. Then one day I found something in the litter tray that made my stomach drop. There was blood in the poop. I didn't see who it came from, but I was sure it was Zoro's. I called the vet and she told me to collect a fresh diarrhea sample for testing. But there weren't any more. Zoro seemed completely normal, moving about, eating eagerly, being his nosy, happy self.
Oh dear.
A week passed, and the memory of that bloody poop slowly drifted into the background. Everything seemed fine, until it wasn't. One ordinary evening after food, something changed. He'd been scrabbling at the cage door, excited like always, climbing over the girls to be first at the dinner table. He ate with his usual gusto, wiping his whiskers on my cardigan during our post-dinner cuddle. But instead of then fussing around for his usual chewy meat treat, he took himself off to his favourite snug in the outside run and went to sleep. That wasn't normal for Zoro, who is obsessed with treats. But it had been a busy day, so I told myself he was probably just tired. I decided to check in on him later. At 9 p.m, he was still curled up in the exact same spot. It was a mild night, so that didn't alarm me. But when I gently lifted him, he was worryingly floppy and low energy. A cold veil of dread settled over me. We cuddled for about 15 minutes there in the garden. Then he took his treat back into his cosy cave and curled up again. I decided I'd check on him early in the morning, and if he was still like that, we'd be at the vet the very moment they opened. At 7 a.m. I went out to check. I could see his little shape curled up in the same place. But when I reached in and lifted him...
Oh no.
He was gone.
Zoro.
But only just. His body was still warm and soft in my hands. I take comfort knowing he passed peacefully in his sleep, in his favourite spot, tucked into the cosy bed he loved so much. He didn't have a long decline, or pain, or fear. He was just his goofy, cuddly self, right up until the last few hours. And although his time with me feels far too short, at 5 years old he lived a fairly normal length of life for a ferret, though of course on the shorter side of normal. Zoro had already survived so much. Abandoned to the wild, attacked by a badger, bullied in an overcrowded rescue centre where he and Luffy clung to each other for safety and comfort. But we saved him from all of that, both of them, and gave them the best life a ferret could ever dream of. Adventures, safety, fun, cuddles, mischief, sunbeams, and family. When it came time to say goodbye, I decided to bury him with Luffy's ashes so the bonded pair could be together again in the new flower bed at the end of my garden. I wrapped him gently in a shroud of his favourite crinkly brown paper, tied up with his favourite chasey wand toy. Then I placed my boys together with a few treats for their journey and said goodbye. Next summer that flower bed will be teeming with life, flowers growing from the place where my boys rest together. Luffy and Zoro, off over the Rainbow Bridge on their next big adventure. As frost began to settle across the landscape again, It seemed to mirror the cold space left in our lives, the space where Zoro and Luffy had been. The seasons changed, and the weather got too bad for garden exploration. Life rolled on, and the Sandpit Zoro had loved so much sat quietly with the rest of us, waiting for the sunshine to return. Anyone who's loved and lost an animal knows that feeling. They leave these little echoes behind them, in their favourite sleeping spot, toys they used to love, the games they should be joining in with. In the end, the girls moved on quite quickly, not because they didn't love him, he just wasn't a big part of their world for very long. And I'm actually grateful for that. It's impossible to stay sad when you're watching ferrets playing. They don't do solemn, they do joy, they do mischief, they do sudden bursts of nonsense that crash straight through the quiet like a ferret in a ball pit. So we kept going. We played, we built new routines, the girls took up battling over the right place to stash Shaky Fox.
Why'd you keep moving him, Wiggles? Oh, Scruffy. Oh, girls.
And somewhere between the Christmas chaos and the dark winter nights, something inside me began to thaw. Not because I stopped missing him, but because the love he left behind was still here, in my memories, in my heart, and in the community here who loved him too. That's how it goes, I think. Our pets don't stay long enough, but they change the shape of our lives while they're here. And when they're gone, the story keeps moving, just differently. So as we look forward to spring here at Floof HQ, I'm doing what I always do. I'm taking the grief with me and building around it. Who knows what comes next? More questionable DIY? More sunny days and bouncy dukes? Maybe even more ferrets? Let me know in comments. And if you'd like to see what happens next in our story, watch this video. Or if you want the whole ferret tube journey from the beginning, start here. See you there, Floof Crew.